call George Adam, to be followed by Alison Johnson.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. I also thank the committee for all the work they've done, and in particular Mr Gibson, the convener, not because he's sitting right beside me here at the moment, but although I'm not on the committee, I've followed followed this with interest, and I welcome the Cabinet Secretary's open remarks with the potential for taking on board some of the committee's concerns, because obviously, as this debate's showing, there's no quick fix. It's quite a complex situation, and there's various examples that have been used here today, and one in the past was Prime Minister Blair had been a keen advocate for freedom of information when the leader of the opposition, although in his memoirs he then described the act as an act of stupidity undermining serious government. Now, I'm not for 1 minute saying that Tony Blair is a perfect human being and a perfect example of someone using FOI, but I think we're aware of his faults. But I understand that FOI is an extremely complex issue to discuss and to obviously enforce. The bill amends the provision of Freedom of Information Act 2002, and the bill was introduced to amend various elements relating to 2002 various exemptions. And I think it's important that we looked at some of the debate so far has already looked at concentrated on the royal exemption, and I think that's probably one of the most contentious issues where obviously Mr Gibson's already mentioned, but Kevin Dunyan, the previous Scottish Information Commissioner, said that absolute exemptions are not regarded as good practice, and I consider the measure to be unnecessary. And although my gut instinct is to go with that idea, I do understand that the Queen, as Head of State, probably is in a similar situation, as Mr Crawford said, to the President of the Republic of Ireland, who is not accessible to the FOI over there as well. So, again, it's not quite as simple and as black and white as everyone else.
On that point?
Yes, I will, Mr Gibson.
Kenneth Gibson.
It doesn't just include the monarch, it also includes the heir to the throne and the second in line to the throne. I don't think there's an Irish equivalent.
George Adam.
Well, that's a whole different debate entirely. But having said that, I do agree that it's a complex situation and there's things that we have to look at. But I do welcome the flexibility offered by the Cabinet Secretary in our opening remarks. And the Government's taken very seriously the committee's report, and today's debate is an example of this. On historical records, I agree with the Cabinet Secretary that the reduction in lifespan on historical records has to be a lot better. But I can also understand how these can be difficult in itself as well. From my own working life or time as a local authority councillor, I would say extension of the coverage to include some of the public organisations which have already been mentioned, like various ALIOs, although not in a council that had an ALIO, I'm only too aware of the fact that when you opt out of being in the council, one day you are effectively part of FOI and you can give information, the next day you're not, and that obviously causes a problem with transparency. But my other concerns are with some housing associations as well. I would like an extension to some of them as well, because I think we have to have clarity in all forms of public life. And in particular, one of the ones for me that worries is PPP, PFI contracts, which have been mentioned by Mr Gray and others, because I think there are situations where we should get an opportunity to see what exactly has happened there. But again, we have to balance it with the fact that, at the moment, we have to balance it with the fact that we have to make sure that there is commercial confidentiality, and we have to make sure. But I'm only too aware, as a councillor, as a member on various boards, how you could have a situation where you would be actually giving information to give a contract of some kind for procurement, but not be able to actually understand, apart from an alleged point system, which was quite confusing, to give them how that actually happened, to give them the contract. And that can be difficult in itself. Mr Gray, if you want to come in.
Ian Gray.
I simply wanted to ask Mr Adam, if he will, in that sense then, support me in my view that the outline business case for the Sick Kids Hospital in Edinburgh should be released so that we can see the affordability in the basis of that project. George
Adam.
Well, as I said earlier on, I think there's got to be a balance in absolutely everything, and I don't know all the information with regard to your project, so I would have to, before I committed myself on the record, I would have to actually know more about what's happening there. But I think some of the organisations that could be looked at as well, I was a member of the council in the Strathclyde Partnership for Transport, was an example of, we were a constituent member of it, but yet I couldn't get the actual information as a councillor to see how much we were actually getting out of £3 million worth of money that was top sliced and taken away every single year, even when I had a scrutiny, even when it was brought to the scrutiny board within Renfrewshire. So in closing, Presiding Officer, I welcome today's debate and the general positive way in which it's been conducted. This is a serious, complex issue, and as such there are no easy fixes. We only need to remember that Tony Blair believed in FOI in opposition, but is quoted as believing it was an act of complete stupidity undermining serious government. Serious, complex issues, and it's something that we have to make sure that we debate it in an open and transparent manner. And I look forward to stage 2 and seeing how the bill develops.
Thank you.